Welcome to Movies That Matter, the podcast about recent films going above and beyond the call of box office returns to boldly explore a social issue affecting people's lives. I'm Nicole Finari.
And I'm Stacey Moore. This week we're overanalyzing Ingrid Goes West. It's about Ingrid. So following the death of her ailing mother and a stint at a mental health facility, Ingrid Thorburn, played by Aubrey Plaza of Parks and Rec fame, develops a rapid but intense fixation on Instagram celebrity Taylor Sloan, played by Elizabeth Olsen, aka the last of the relevant Olsens. Not content to hit like on Taylor's fantasy life, Ingrid moves to Venice Beach for a chance to meet her obsession in the flesh. What'd you think?
Oh my God, I really didn't like this movie, and I feel like you're going to disagree.
All right, lay it on me.
I was just bored.
Oh. Okay.
I just found that she was so unsympathetic and so uninteresting, but frankly predictable. Like, she was the sad stalker person. She was going to do sad stalker things. So I was totally uninterested in what was going to happen to any of these characters. Like, I just couldn't muster up enough caring for them to want to know where they were going to go. What did you think?
Got it. Yeah, I was pretty into it for the first 2/3. And then I think I got to the point where you were the whole time around the time the third act started, when I started thinking, like, I'm not sure I really care how things end up for these people right about now. But for the first 2/3, I was actually enjoying just watching the dysfunction of it all, and just like how like bizarre her actions were, and how bizarre Taylor Sloan's existence was as well. I found that equally fascinating. They both seemed so kind of out of it to me, but in such different ways, that I did enjoy watching them interact and how they behaved with the people around them. But I do agree that the pacing was a little, like, there were points where I was kind of like, I'm getting a little bored right here, and then something weird would happen to pick it up again. But then towards the end, at the climax, or at the resolution, I wasn't really I wasn't emotionally invested in what happened to Ingrid at the end. But I did enjoy the like, what's the word? Just like the tone of it, the tone and the aesthetic. I did enjoy that.
Okay. I'm going to dig into that in a second. I will say there was one person I was emotionally invested in, and so then it was just entirely frustrating, which was the wonderful, charming, adorable neighbor, Danny Pinto. And I was like, get away, run as fast as you can away from this girl. What the hell is the matter with you, dude? You seem really cool. You've got, that smile, right?
Oh, I know. So adorable.
His smile. So
Although it
adorable.
did creep me out that I kept thinking of Ice Cube. It's like, wait, is that Ice Cube? No, it's not.
But he was just so full of
charming,
warmth.
so authentic. He was just being himself, right? Like,
and the whole Batman thing just came off hilarious. Like, it didn't seem forced. I credit that actor. He just gave everything to that part, he was just this. In this, like, overly saturated, sunshiny world, he was, like, the only authentic ray of sunshine in the movie.
Yes.
And I was just like, run away from this girl. Run hard. Stop.
I did find that true to life, though. Like, you're right. He's the only moral, absolutely, the only sort of moral character in the movie, for sure. And kind of the moral, he's the person that we're supposed to, he's the role model, right? He's the only person in the movie that you should actually want to emulate, as far as like how authentic he is, with his own, like, I don't know, things, his interests, and just how he likes to live. He lives the way he wants to live, not the way he's watching someone else live, right?
Yes.
But I do think it's true that guys like that, or I won't say guys, I'll say people, a lot of times there is a tendency for people who are really good souls to, like, totally develop codependent connections with like a hot mess. And I have seen that happen a lot, and it is a shame, and it's always hard to watch, but that is how it kind of plays out.
I'll give you that. I feel like romantic comedies led me astray by convincing me that I could be this really difficult, high maintenance woman who was like rejected a guy over and over and over again, and he'd keep coming back until eventually, you know.
Oh no, it can happen to you.
I don't think it can.
All right. We'll see. What else?
So, well, you were talking. Let's talk about the film visually, because I think they did some very interesting things there, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I liked how it represented, the Instagram elements. It was I liked how they the speaking out loud of the the written messages under the photos could have gotten annoying, but it didn't. It just made it feel appropriately annoying. Like it made the messages that Taylor Sloan posts sound like aptly irritating.
Oh yeah, like saying princess emoji is as annoying as looking at a princess emoji.
Absolutely, yeah. Right. But it did depict everything in LA as beautiful as it appears in these Instagram images, in these like too good to be true, like goop blog, tastemaker sort of like fantasy images that you see sometimes that come out of that subculture. I liked how that was represented. Yeah. It really kind of sucked me in. I was like, wow, like is LA really like this? And apparently there is a place called Cafe Gratitude that the Grateful Kitchen is based on. So apparently like, that was all really true to life. Yeah. And there is like, in Joshua Tree, there are people that go to Joshua Tree and do all these things that she was talking about. Like that's pretty accurate apparently.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. I really thought that they nailed the aesthetic, the lighting and the very saturated scenes very much looked like Instagram photos. So I appreciated how
so well lit everything.
Yeah. This just struck me watching it. And I try to do my research on this topic, but on the costume design too, one of the things that I found problematic about it. So I thought, I really didn't like the character of Taylor Sloan. I think it was in a single white female situation. You're right. Like Dan becomes the audience surrogate because he's the only like normal person in this movie. And so you're not really that sympathetic with Taylor being stalked because she's so obnoxious.
Right.
Yeah. You kind of feel like she deserves it a little bit for being obnoxious very loudly in public. But
or for being disingenuous, right?
She's a completely inauthentic person.
Right.
I did love her look. I did love her aesthetic. I thought she really nailed the part.
Olsen was great.
Olsen did a great job. But I guess I found it hard to believe. So you have Ingrid start out as a sad sack character, and again, she was wearing the typical sad sack hairstyle, which is like a middle part, and it's really stringy. And I'm like, the girl in the ring, Miss Congeniality. Like, there's a lot of examples of that particular like hairstyle trope.
Like, she needs some conditioner. You'll notice, like,
yeah, and then it's like with it together, people have side parts. Like, sad loser people have middle parts. This is what we've learned from movies.
They couldn't bother to go against gravity and choose a side.
But then she like gets the makeover and she's like really put together in all these adorable outfits, and I'm like, would she really be able to pull it off to quite that extent? Seemed unrealistic to me. Like, I wanted it to be just a little bit off somehow, where she doesn't quite, like, I don't know, her earrings just don't quite really match the rest of the outfit or something. Like, she just seems to be able to go whole hog into this super stylish put together, and I'm like, I don't think it's actually that easy, even if you're trying to emulate, unless you're directly copying somebody else's outfit. I don't know. That bothered me.
Sure. I think there's a matter of, it's amazing what a huge pile of cash can do. She had no job. She had nothing but free time and a whole bunch of
Yeah,
Instagram photos to kind of, and sources, right? That was Taylor Sloan's whole deal, is that she wouldn't just post a dress. She'd say where you could find it and how much it was. So I presume she was just kind of, that was her job, right? Was being like Taylor Sloan, and she did it well.
Okay. What did you think of Aubrey Plaza's performance?
I thought it was good. I mean, I wouldn't say, oh boy, let's, keep this in mind for award season or anything. But I thought it was perfectly decent. She's funny. I love her. There were moments where I was just laughing. When she's singing to Taylor Sloan in the truck and drives into the guardrail, I die. Like, the look on her face of just sheer, like, for a moment, she totally drops her facade and shows exactly how obsessed she is with this woman. And it was totally disturbing and hysterical all at once, which I found very entertaining.
Okay.
What'd you think?
I mean, I find her really one note. I mean, honestly, she hasn't stretched beyond this type of socially awkward character in anything that she's done.
That's true.
Although I don't know if I haven't seen the entire body of her work, but everything that I've seen, like this, Safety Not Guaranteed, and her character on Parks and Rec have been very much...
She's not versatile, yeah.
Yeah. And I think frankly, with a better actress in the role, I would have been more engaged. I think you're right. She did an adequate job with what was on the page. She brought nothing extra to it. And I think a better actress would have made you feel Ingrid's vulnerability in a way where you could connect with her. Whereas Aubrey Plaza, you talking about that same scene where she's singing and she's kind of crying and you can see how choked up she is, but I just couldn't connect to her.
Oh yeah, I definitely didn't. I definitely didn't think, oh wow, like I can totally, yeah, I see what you're saying. No, I was definitely kind of looking at her in that scene. I was laughing and disturbed, but I was definitely not connecting with her at all or feeling bad for her. Yeah. I don't know what their intent was. That's something that we should probably talk about eventually. Is how Ingrid is treated.
No time like the present.
For sure. Oh, okay, yeah, great. Yeah, it's kind of, it's a little weird to me that this is essentially a person who has mental illness, right?
Right.
She's a disturbed person and she needs help. And I'm not sure, I don't think that's treated cavalierly, but it certainly isn't treated sympathetically, as if like, it's more like, wow, look at this crazy bitch. Like, look at how crazy she is and look at these crazy things she's doing. And and isn't that a shame? And I don't know that it was ever really, and I think even Taylor says towards the end in like that usual sort of derisive way, like, you need professional help. But it's more of an accusation. It's more of like an insult than we should call somebody because I think you genuinely need professional help.
Right.
Yeah, and I do think it's supposed to be, maybe they didn't dive into it in that with any more depth because it's supposed to be a metaphor for our kind of collective societal mental illness of being obsessed with people we've never met via social media. I don't know, but I wasn't completely comfortable with it. Not completely.
Yeah, no, and I think actually we're saying sort of the same thing. Like, her vulnerability, she's just crazy, and there's no backstory or reason for it, which I'm fine with. Like, I don't necessarily need this whole like sad childhood saga, but then if you're not going to do that, and she's just crazy, she's just so dislikable in her crazy that it does do a disservice. I agree with you.
Yeah, and they only really, I think in that regard, they only really touch on it once where she's on the date with Dan and you kind of and you get to for a minute you're kind of seeing what he sees, which is that she is this kind of vulnerable person that these sort of not psychotic, but definitely neurotic behaviors were all kind of triggered by the loss of her mom, right? Where she, her mom was really important to her. She loses her mom, and she's, without, whether or not she realizes it or not, she's looking for that unconditional love and affection that she used to get from her mother in all the wrong places, right? In places that that are not healthy, that are not effective.
Right. And here's this guy who's willing to give it to her, and she's just uninterested in it. I mean, that's sort of the problem. Like, she's so rejecting of him. Yeah. She really just treats him as a means to an end for most of the movie, and you're like, he's amazing.
Yeah, he's really great. And the problem now, this is, I think, intentional. So it seems to me that the kind of affection that he gives her doesn't, because it's in this very, unimpressive package as far as she sees it, right? It doesn't do anything to reinforce her idea of her identity as this amazing, beautiful, well-liked, popular person, right? He's a nerd. He's a nerd. Right. He's a geek. He likes to write about Batman. He smokes all day. That these are not things that fit into her idea of what is, I guess, cool. Aspirational. Yeah, what is cool. And it's definitely not what she aspires to be. And so loving him back would not do anything for her own sort of self-image. And that's why she doesn't seem to be able to reciprocate at first, or ever really, truly, genuinely, which is a shame.
There's a lot to unpack, too, about, like, what the movie, and when you're talking about intent, like, what is the movie trying to say about Instagram and social media culture? Let's go ahead and spoil the ending in terms of what ends up happening with Ingrid, where she makes this very dramatic live video of a suicide, and, of course, ends the movie having finally achieved what she's always set out to achieve, which is to be the famous social media personality herself and to see all the likes and the comments. So it's a very cynical ending, that she has one moment of authenticity when she finally shows her real face and is very vulnerable. And it wins her the affection that she's always desired from countless strangers, and is back to just being totally obsessed with social media and ignoring the reality around her. How did you feel about it having this very cynical ending?
I like that it, went somewhere critical, but I'm not sure that it said much. I think everything you said is accurate. That's it's her one, true, genuine moment, and so that's the one thing that actually makes her a hashtag. And it is, kind of like twisted and sad that she gets such, gratification from that, and just goes back to I guess the only interesting thing about it is that I don't think I never got the sense that she actually wanted to be an Instagram sensation. She always seemed to want to be consuming it and be near these people who were, who she thought were so, I don't know, admirable. And maybe that was all tied together. Maybe it was her wanting to be specifically them, to actually be an Instagram sensation. But yeah, she doesn't, she stops. The only thing about her character growing is that she stops needing to obsess with others and actually step into that role herself and be the object of all of this attention. It is unfortunate, though, that's, at the end of it, like, Dan's there. Like, Dan's sitting next to her, loving her unconditionally, like, no matter what she does. And she's still, like, not really interested. I mean, even at the end, remember, he goes, "I'm fine, by the way." He's there in a wheelchair, and she hasn't asked, like, hey, Dan, why are you in a wheelchair? Is that because of that thing I made you do? Sorry. No,
Yeah.
she never even gets there. She's like, whoa, I got how many likes? You're still a sociopath. You're at the end of the movie.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
run away, Dan. You don't
I
need
know.
this.
He's got to get out of there. It's like, Dan, you are codependent and she's a sociopath. And this is very unhealthy. Like, you guys cannot be together.
So let's get and then I think we also need to address like how all of this comes to be and where the movie just basically goes off the rails and probably where you just sort of checked out, which is the stupid brother character and the like violence plot line that is nonsensical and just they wanted to do a character study and they really just didn't know how to pull it off, in my opinion. So did you just think it was totally stupid? Like I was like, this is just dumb.
I didn't really. I was just kind of like, huh, okay. I guess this is happening now. There was a moment where I almost thought, oh, this character, the brother, is what was his name? Nicky?
Yes.
Okay, he's going to be interesting because at first I thought, okay, he's actually the hero of this movie, and we've been watching the movie from the villain's point of view. And so we're gonna watch the hero bring down and like protect his sister. Like he even says, like, you know, when he is speaking to her and confronting her, and he says like, "Don't reach towards me." Like he looks kind of scary there for a moment, but I was respecting how angry he was on his sister's behalf that this person was behaving in a an inappropriate way and possibly dangerous way, and his little sister, I don't know, maybe older sister, being the object of that. And he says I think I forget what the line was, but he says something about how he's like, all I'm concerned about is my sister's safety or something like that. And I thought, oh wow, this is about to be where we're on Ingrid's side, but the hero's taking her down. And then he just goes, but you know what? My sister's safety costs $5,000 a month, and I'd be happy to accept that in cash. And well, that's not interesting at all. Yeah, like that's not an interesting character to me.
So congratulations for writing a better and more sophisticated movie than this one actually was. Like, yes, that actually would have been a better way to handle the brother, where you realize like, oh, she's the villain and he's the hero, and where she thinks he's the bad guy because she's stealing attention from her.
Right.
With Taylor.
Which is bonkers.
That didn't occur to me.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's great. Like that would have been so cool, and I would have liked that movie better than the one I saw. But like, yeah, I mean, her convincing him to do violence, like kidnap the guy. I was like, I mean, it just went into a very unrealistic movie place. And I thought, I mean, I have a lot of bones to pick with this movie. Again, thematically, like it just didn't know how to be, just the writing was weak. Like it didn't know how to make her an interesting character. It didn't really have anything useful to say about Instagram. And it didn't really know how to wrap up the plot in a character-driven way. It introduces a ridiculous plot element, and you're like, oh, okay. And so I think one of the biggest problems I had with the movie, it's sort of alluded to but never really addressed, is so you have Ingrid, who sees social media as this way to make connections with people, which she cannot do in real life, right?
Right.
Like she's seeking connection and validation and love and affection. It's an emotional draw for her.
Mm-hmm.
You have Taylor's character, who I've done some side research on this in preparation for the movie, who is very much an Instagram influencer, which means she's making money off of this. This is actually her job.
Right.
And they kind of allude to it a little bit with her relationship with the husband, but like she's literally paying the bills by taking these Instagram pictures. And that is a very different relationship with social media, where it's actually providing income for her than the one that Ingrid is having. And I don't think the movie knew how to separate those themes or even treat them adequately. Like, I really felt like they dropped the ball where they don't address the fact that they can even afford a second home by the fact that she does Instagram for a job.
I think they did judge it. I felt like it was judged, which is not very interesting to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, she's making money off of this.
Yeah, it's honest work. Like, I think the only caveat being, I think a lot of Instagrammers, my understanding is that they will say when something is an ad when they've received revenue for something, and apparently she wasn't doing that in her posts. But generally, it seems like honest work to me. Like, if everyone's being upfront about, exactly what they're doing, I don't see any problem with that at all. And I guess I suppose I shouldn't see a problem with people like, the people like that are not Ingrid but are in it for the same thing. Like, I don't guess there's anything wrong with following folks on Instagram and thinking, oh, wow, that is a great dress that she's wearing. I wonder where I can find that. Or I trust her taste. So, and now she's saying that this Grateful Kitchen is a great place to eat. So I guess maybe I will go check that out. There's nothing wrong with that per se. It does seem troubling, though, that if it gets out of hand, right? If you become less like Dan and more like Ingrid, where you completely lose yourself and your ability to connect with people face to face, right? Which I guess I don't know. With every generation, these sort of think pieces come out, but there have been a lot on, the M word, millennials, how we are statistically not making in-person connections as much. Like, we're not spending time with each other in the flesh as much, which has the somewhat hysterical side effect of there being less teen pregnancy.
Woohoo!
Right? But at the same time, you kind of think, well, but gosh, shouldn't you guys be meeting in basements and banging and doing drugs? Like, isn't that better than just sitting at home on your phone and looking at pictures of people doing those things? I don't know.
Yeah, so there was a great, there was a good article in Sleet where they interviewed something like 5 or 6 Instagram influencers about how they feel about the movie.
Oh, wow.
And the reactions are really different. You have the one girl who was like, holy crud, I never thought about how easy it would be to stalk me based on me telling everybody where I am all the time. Like, she was like, she took it as like, wow, that was, she was like, well, that's sobering. I probably should be more careful. Two of the girls were like, a lot of the people, though, commended the film for its authenticity in the sense of they were like, yeah, she looks like, it's completely possible that she would be as her Instagram feed would be as popular as it is. Like, it looked right. So everybody said they nailed that, but 2 of the girls had absolutely no clue. She's like, oh yeah, we go around and we do the same stuff and we sell things. I'm like, oh God, this is embarrassing. Like, you're idiots. But
like, you're completely not self-aware. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like, one of the people said, it's interesting because, the sort of quote unquote, like, pernicious influence of social media making you feel bad about your own life. She's like, you can see a whole group of women and all of them are on their phones. They all, like, out to dinner somewhere. They all pose for a picture, all happy and smiling together, and then immediately go right back to their phones.
God, I've seen that. It makes me sad.
Yeah. And she was just, like, commenting on, it looks like they're actually connecting to each other and having this great time out of human interaction. But like you were saying, actually, there's zero human interaction, and they immediately go back, even when they're out in public, like, to being on their phones. And I mean, I've seen 2 people who are of opposite sex, so I'm assuming they were on a date, like, basically be on their phones.
No way.
The whole time. Yeah.
God, that is, so disheartening. It makes me so sad. It's like, no, you could be, although maybe they're better off. Maybe they would be fighting if they weren't on their phones. But yeah, gosh, that's hard to hear.
And from sort of reading up on the topic, I think, which the movie doesn't does sort of try to address the nuance of, for people who are really unhappy, looking at everybody else's happy pictures can make them feel worse about their life. But
Right.
at the same time, like you said, it does give people a sense of community and connection if they don't have it.
Gosh, I hope so. I hope it doesn't make them feel just less. I hope it doesn't make them feel more empty than they did to begin with. There is something I read about called, hang on, let me check. I think it's parasocial interaction that the social scientists are saying is very common now, where people are, consumers will be connecting emotionally with these individuals that they've never met or spoken to. And they feel like they know them, genuinely know them, like are actual friends. So it's like a seed for what Ingrid is actually experiencing, where it is like, that's crazy that you are not friends with this person. Like, I know you think you know them, but this is just like, in the case of like a YouTube star, this is a video that this is all very highly curated. Like that they are these images and videos that they're putting out. And I say YouTube star because there was I think last year, there was someone, a YouTube celebrity called Marina Joyce. Are you familiar with her? She's a fashion vlogger. I'd never heard of her, but I'm old or whatever. And apparently, I guess she put out a couple of kind of weird videos where she was doing her usual fashion vlogging thing, but just didn't seem as chipper and happy as she normally did. And her followers apparently all started calling the cops, reporting that she was like, they're like, something's wrong. Someone's like, we think that she's under duress, making these videos under duress, and that she's actually in danger. Like, apparently her behavior was weird enough that like a lot of her followers did this, and were calling the cops, and the cops were like looking into, like, showed up, were like like checking on her. Her friends were calling her, going, "It says on social media you've been kidnapped. Like, are you okay?" And it was, these folks that, think that they are connected to this person and know them, but don't. Like, they don't. Like, this is just a fashion video. Like, you don't know anything about this girl, and you have no right to involve yourself in her life. Now, if it's something like, apparently people really are, live streaming their suicides now, which is, we could talk about the value of choosing whether or not to do that. But I suppose if that's happening, then yes, it makes sense for Dan to call the cops and call an ambulance. But otherwise, like, you don't need to be involving yourself with these people. Like, they didn't, they are broadcasting. This is not a conversation. Like, you can comment if you want, but beyond that, like, you need to respect people's space.
Yeah, but I mean, you can kind of see, like, the line gets blurred, right? I mean, it was one thing to have celebrity gossip rags where you have paparazzi following people around and taking those pictures and reporting on it. But when they start posting it themselves and they invite you into their life and say, this is what I'm doing today, or post a status update about how they're feeling, like, I think it's hard to maintain that separation. I think you're right. Like, you start to feel like you know the person in a way that we just never have before. We've never had that sort of glimpse into the day-to-day life or ongoing thoughts and feelings of celebrities.
Like, in real time.
Yeah. And from their own voice, right? Not from what the Inquirer says they were doing, but from them saying what they were doing. It is a changing world, and it's to, Taylor's point, like, it's a dangerous one. And to your point, like, it's a dangerous one to let people get in that close. But at the same time, like, to get a little, like, personal, I guess, on this, like, one of the conversations I was having after the movie is, I am not really that big into social media myself, but, you and I, more you than me, in the division of duties for Movies That Matter, like, we have to self-promote. And that comes up in the movie. Like, she criticizes the husband for being an artist, and she's like, you have to do self-promotion. Like, you do. you got to get the word out there. Like, we have to be on social media. We have to post things. So you're doing a bang up job, and I love everything you post. But
oh, thank you.
Do you? I mean, did it give you pause about how we have to take our social media and what we should be doing and how much we should be sharing?
That's a great question. It doesn't. Gosh, I find it as a 30-something. I find it more just sort of taxing than anything else.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't come as natural to me as I imagine it does for younger people who, if they put down their phone for too long, they actually start to have a physical reaction. And I'm not being glib. My understanding is that that's what actually happens. But that's a great question. So I don't think so. I have no problem with, like, I get what Taylor's saying. Like, let's, we're especially. I mean, we can debate on what Taylor does is expression. I think it generally, I say it is. Like so many forms of expression, she's, managed to commodify it, and so that complicates it, but it is expression. And so, yeah, I definitely don't feel like any sort of conflicting feelings about it. I think the only time, I guess, especially it's specific to what you and I do here, is that we voice our political and social views, right? And I do sometimes worry is a strong word. I'll think about, like, well, I wonder if this will come back to bite me in the ass one day.
Yeah.
But as
job interviews.
Sure. But as we've discussed before off air, I have come to the conclusion that I never say anything that I am truly ashamed of. If I one day grow beyond the things I say on this podcast, which I hope I do keep growing, then that could be awkward later if I've decided, like, well, that thing I said was actually problematic, or that was heartless or unwoke. But for the most part, I do stand by the things I say, and so I hope that as long as I'm being honest, like. The only things that I would worry about broadcasting would be things that were not true. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I feel really scared sometimes, conflicted. I don't like to have all my business out on the internet. Like, I'm not much of a Facebook poster. Like, I actually curate my Facebook post to focus on, like, people who make political statements or post interesting articles that I can read. Like, so I do worry sometimes that we are inviting people into our lives and into our personalities in a way that could be damaging to us later. I mean, I think it's hard with us being women. We made a joke a long time ago, like, let the death and rape threats begin. Like, we're out here with our real names, on social media, talking about controversial things. So yeah, I mean, it does give me pause sometimes about if this is a good thing. But I mean, I think I speak for both of us when I say we love doing this. Like,
yeah,
it's worth the risk, And thank God we're older, because I think actually, like, our audience probably skews older too.
I wonder,
like, we're not getting the trolls because we're not old.
Who are
like,
you
we're
people?
Not young enough.
Anyway, like,
yeah, come and find us.
Person listening right now, this may go against everything we've been talking about, but I'd love to actually know more about you guys. So if you ever want to just, like, introduce yourself via, like, an email or a Facebook post, please do that, and we would love to hear your thoughts on the things we talk about. We're all, and I think what is great about social media is that most of us are not, actual celebrities. Like, it really is like a conversation where, the I guess podcaster and listener, or, especially on more, we're just more equal footing, media like Instagram or Facebook, where you actually are and blogging, you are like all on the same sort of status level. Like you can, like I can talk to you, you can talk to me, and that is what's a lot nicer than the way things used to be, where, well, I don't know, what, you sent a fan letter to someone?
Exactly.
All right, so real quick, social impact score, scale of 1 to 10, 1 being it changed nothing, and 10 being the world he wants to is gone forever. Nicole, what do you think? 1 to 10 for Ingrid Goes West.
I'm gonna like 2 because maybe somebody thought about locking down their Instagram feed and not talking about where they were all the time. But
There you
this
go.
it just didn't have anything insightful to say. I didn't feel like. What do you say?
I guess I'll give it a 3 on the chance that it becomes a cult hit. Like maybe
Oh,
it could be
okay.
something that I can see it falling into that category of one of those weird movies that people start to refer to later. Or like
Okay.
they might refer to, maybe an Ingrid or a Taylor. That remains to be seen, but if that does happen, I'll give it a 3.
Everybody, Stacy wrote a book.
Aww.
So you definitely should plug the book here on Movies That Matter.
So I did write a YA fantasy adventure novel called Banshee, and I posted it online, and you can find it on Amazon. And if you are interested in it, you can go to staceyerinmore.com/banshee and find all the links.
My recommendation this week, very controversial TV show Black Mirror, set in, it's an English show. It's streaming on Netflix. Their episode about social media and sort of an imagined future where everybody's competing for likes, and it affects actually how you work in the world. I don't want to give any more than that. Unfortunately, just a ton more to say than this entire movie did. So definitely check out that Black Mirror episode. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Movies That Matter. If you did, please take a second to leave a review on iTunes and recommend it to your friends. Check out www.moviesthatmatterpodcast.com for links to things we've discussed. And again, please come and talk to us. We have a Facebook page. We have a Twitter tag @MoviesMatterPod.
Yeah.
Yeah. And keep checking Twitter to see what movie we're going to overanalyze next. And remember, movies matter.
And so do you.
We'll see you next time.